How powerful is music when it comes to your mental health? Well, music moves the soul. It creates images in our minds and it can calm and energize us. See, the word soul actually refers to our emotions, and music is one of the most powerful tools that we can use and engage in to help us be more joyful, calm, and productive. Even researchers are saying that learning music may have the power to reduce the risk of Alzheimer's. Today, to talk about the power of music and our mental well being is crossover country and Southern pop recording artist Brei Carter. This Louisiana girl was raised on several authentic Southern staples: the Bible, Lone Star Missionary Baptist Church's choir, Charley Pride, Loretta Lynn, and Aretha Franklin, to name a few. She is a proud veteran of the U.S. Army, where she served as an enlisted soldier and as an officer. And she has new music on the way through her global music distribution deal with Brownlee Entertainment and The Orchard. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome one of the most talented singer-songwriters in music today, the ever-lovely Brei Carter. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's so good to be here with you today.
Well, it's great to have you. And, being Mental Health Awareness Month, I think mental health has taken center stage across the nation more than ever before. And you being in the military, you understand what it's like being, well, in a way, on the front lines, and also our first responders. We're seeing a much higher rate of depression and suicide in today's society more than ever before. I know a lot of people have kind of blamed the pandemic on that, for people who got caught up in being in isolation for so long. So for you, what have you seen on your side?
You know what? I think I would definitely agree with what you're saying. I think right now it's about being mindful. Mental health, it affects so many of us. And for so long, it's just been a stigma just to admit that you had anxiety or depression or that there were mental health issues. But I think just through the pandemic, just the isolation and just more awareness today, it's okay to talk about. People need to learn a little bit more self care and kind of do self check ins. But you're right. Research has shown that, music and mental health, there's just so many avenues that you can do, but you have to first be aware in order to make a difference.
Well, you are a veteran of the U.S. military, the U.S. Army. Um, is being in the armed services today, mental health really needs to be on the forefront. And were there any avenues to that were offered to soldiers and veterans in that area to help improve that at the
You know,
moment, or back when you were in the service?
That is a great question. I think when I was in the service, unfortunately, I think realistically speaking, if there were mental health issues or what have you, people just really they didn't talk about them. You kind of suffered in silence and you kind of dealt with things. All there were places and people that you can go see. A lot of people they kind of shunned away from things like that because they felt that they would be maybe ostracized a little bit or there would be issues if they actually discussed them. Today, due to all the awareness, hence having Mental Health Awareness Month, I think it's more acceptable for people to come forward and people aren't as afraid. But I think we still need to do a much better job of saying that, hey, it's okay to seek and get the help that you need. Because I think by moving forward and seeking help, I think a lot of times you probably could save a lot of lives by doing that, whether it's self infliction or, inflicting, pain and suffering on other people. They have a saying that hurt people like to hurt people. Unfortunately, there tends to be some truth in that, but I think we need to do a much better job of, educating people and saying, hey, come forth. There are a lot of different resources. And thank God today there are more resources and it's more openly accepted. So people are getting the help I think that they need.
It almost seems that it's safe for a veteran that once they've left the military to say, I do have this problem and I need help, versus those that are still in the service, that if they were to come out and say that they need help, will they be looked at as being unstable, knowing the fact that they are most likely carrying a gun? Maybe in combat, maybe at a guard station. Does that pose a big problem? And at the same time, a lot of our soldiers had multiple tours of duty, especially in the Middle East, where maybe it took one tour to create PTSD, and then they were sent back another two, three, four, five times.
For sure. I mean, you bring up a very good point. That post traumatic stress disorder. I mean, it's real, and I would think that veterans that were in and they suffered some of the PTSD. Unfortunately, those are some of the ones that are still greatly suffering in silence. I think today, just with the new generation, just more education and just talking about it a little bit more, just because that soldier is on guard duty, if there are issues, I think that some of them are actually moving forward and seeking help a little bit more. I think some of the ones that maybe went on tour and went back for another tour, and some of the things that they were subjected to or had to do, I think some of them, they've come back home now that they're off duty, and they're still suffering in silence a little bit more, unfortunately. That's why I keep saying education is key. But a lot of times, once someone is done with the service, obviously their VA benefits and what have you, but sometimes there is still that slight disassociation for whatever reason that there is, and no one wants to talk about it. I think we're just taught, as kids, a lot of times, for exact when I grew up, of hey, you know what, you're strong, you can handle it, you're mentally tough. And that's not necessarily the case. I mean, mental health also deals with, the fact that sometimes there's an imbalance in neurotransmitters such as your norepinephrine or your serotonin. So there is an imbalance. There could be something medically wrong, and sometimes the anxiety or depression or trauma happens as a result of being in fight or flight, being in these situations where you're trying to preserve your sanity and what have you, and through sometimes some of that, you trying to preserve yourself, you actually cause yourself a little bit more damage later on. So at that point in time, you're preserving your sanity, but eventually it kind of catches up with you.
It will. It will. Now, tell us about your new blog, Music is Medicine. And what is that going to do for, well, all of us as well as your fans?
Okay, music is medicine. It's something that I think I shared with a few friends recently that God has a funny sense of humor. He knows what you need when you need it. So as much as the blog was written to encourage and educate others, as I was writing and what have you, and I go back reading the articles now, I'm like, okay, Lord, I see what you were saying. This article, I needed to hear this today because there's something just about music, whether you're listening to music, you're playing music, you're singing, playing an instrument or something like that. Music tends to, you brought up the soul, soothe the soul, the inner being. It causes you, at least it gets the endorphins going. And it's good when you can listen to, music, even if it's something maybe you listened to growing up. It's those sounds, those tunes that kind of bring back those happy feelings and those happy memories that kind of calm you for a moment, and you get a chance to release and maybe forget about some of the things that you've gone through or you're going through currently. And I think through some of those things, it allows you to work through whatever mental issues that you're kind of facing. And by listening to music or playing or singing, it's a form of self-care because you're taking you're taking a step back, taking yourself out of the situation, and you're allowing yourself to kind of for a moment, meditate and kind of focus and kind of center yourself to kind of reground yourself. So I think music is medicine. It's true. Obviously there are some people that need medicine and need that therapy, but music, it's been proven to actually soothe and to kind of help regenerate cells and what have you through being a part of your life.
Yeah, I even when I'm doing research, if I'm reading an upcoming guest, their book, or listening to a brand new album, no, well, except for the album part. But if when I'm doing the reading part, I always have music playing, and and sometimes that music is more in line with what I'm reading, so I can still concentrate on my reading, but the music's there in the background. Now I see a lot of these apps coming out, and where you would put headphones on, or maybe you're in a room by yourself, and instead of calling it white noise, they're calling it brown noise. That seems to have more of a calming effect upon the body. Have you ever tried that?
I haven't tried that. So I've heard of the white noise and I've done that a time or two, but really for me, whether it's words or an instrumental version of something, it's whatever kind of soothes my inner being to allow me to get into that state where I can focus, like you said, whether you're reading or you're doing work or you're driving or you're working out. It has a calming effect. Even sometimes if you're listening to something just fast and upbeat and happy, you still, there's a part of you that there's a sense of calmness. So, and through that, so when I know you asked about the blog, I think through music is medicine, my hopes in doing it is to educate, to allow other people to be more aware and to say, hey, I've suffered from anxiety and from depression. I'm not immune to it. And none of us are, truthfully. I mean, we don't know when it's going to hit or who it's going to hit. But by incorporating music into your life, whether it's my music, someone else's music, or music that they're creating themselves, I think that is something that would definitely help them in soothing their mental health.
It's a I think a lot of people don't realize how powerful music is. And not just on the mind, but on the whole body.
True.
If we look at some of the biggest music stars in the world today, and I'm not talking about the young ones, I'm talking about the ones that have been doing this for 50 plus years. Willie Nelson is 90 years old. The Rolling
Wow.
Stones are in their 70s and their 80s. I even, Sammy Hagar is in his 70s. Found out that Alex Van Halen, the drummer of Van Halen, he just turned 70. Uh,
Wow.
Rod Stewart is over 75. I believe he's 75 now. Alice Cooper, Dolly Parton is in her 70s. And my gosh, and look how old Loretta Lynn was. So music has this very strong anti-aging effect on people. We all laugh wondering why is Keith Richards still alive?
Right.
And I don't, and yeah, sure, he's probably done tons of drugs in the past, but there's just something that is incredible about music that causes these people to continue to live at a very mature age and still perform at that level.
Exactly. I mean, I tell people music has healing properties, and the wonderful thing is that music is universal. So there's no colors, there's no boundaries. There's no, it doesn't matter what someone's socioeconomic status is. Music surpasses all of those things, and it's just music just does.
Yeah, it does. And, I got to thinking, and because, the late country star Glenn Campbell passed away of Alzheimer's. But what a lot of people don't know about his story is that the very last ability that he lost was the ability to play music. So even
Mm.
the doctors were very astonished that even though he uh, couldn't remember uh, dealing with that, but his ability to play guitar uh, and and really think about music, that was the very last thing he lost. So there's so much research coming out now that music itself, learning to play it, learning to read it, people who sing, it has this incredible power of slowing down the aging process, but it actually increases new nerve growth in the brain by remapping the brain, remapping the thought process. And I think everyone, and I always encourage parents, have your kid learn a musical instrument. I don't care if they're in the band playing the trombone. It doesn't matter. As long as they're learning music, it's going to pay off decades down the road.
I completely agree. I mean, think about it. Think about babies when they're born, how when they're crying or just as they're sleeping, just the classical and the different type of music that parents allow. So it starts then regenerating those cells and creating cell growth. And I would venture to wonder, as he lost his ability to play the guitar, if he still had music in his life, if they still constantly played the music of him playing or just music in general. I agree. I think there's truly an untold story of just how great music is in saving lives and healing the body and doing all of that. So when people ask, I'm like, music is my superpower.
And it is, and I always tell people, you're never too old to learn. Yes, it's probably easier if you're younger and you're a kid. I mean, you and I both know we've been on YouTube and you're seeing these 11-year-old kids play guitar as if they were Eddie Van Halen, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, how are they doing that?"
Mhm.
Well, the concentration level, those kids are not sitting on video games. They're learning and playing a musical instrument, and they've dived into this. But even if you're, older, learn to play, because Bree, I always tell people, when it comes to, if you're learning to play the piano or the guitar, it is your hands, it is your eyes, it is your brain, it is your ears. They're all working together at the same time. So that's creating new nerve pathways in the brain. And that is
Yes.
just going to benefit that person as they get older.
I completely agree. So the message of the day is make sure you're learning to play a musical instrument. You're taking the time, you're never too old. And if you choose not to actually learn to play, make sure you take some time to focus on that music and just to kind of fully calm your mind. And even if maybe you don't calm your mind, I think it's also good to go back and replay and revisit in your mind, have different visions of happy moments and times in life where you were learning, where you were at your happiest point. I just think that it's important for all of us. And whether you're young or old, everyone can benefit from it. So sometimes instead of physically taking a pill or what have you, take medicine. I mean, take music. Take music in as your medicine, and that could potentially heal you.
I completely agree with it. Now, how can people? Now, you and I have already, we've talked a bit about trauma, especially PTSD. So, how
Yeah.
can people use the power of music to cope with trauma?
Listening to music. Listening to music. It's whether you're using it for PTSD or trauma. You've been in a situation using music as a meditative state. Once again, calming that mind. Or if you've suffered from some sort of trauma, finding the right music for you. Whether it's music from back in, I keep saying back in time because there's certain music that we grew up with as kids where maybe your parents were dancing around or maybe you're outside playing and you heard certain sounds and what have you. A lot of those things, a lot of those songs and that music also can soothe. So through trauma, listening to music, playing music, or singing music, or whatever it may be, music just being a part of your life will actually start to heal you over time. I mean, no one can say how long that, it'll take you to heal from the trauma, but it can definitely start healing you. So you
So,
can move forward and
yeah, and also in your blog, I believe that you're also writing about the impact of music on anxiety and depression. What have you seen and what have you learned?
what I've seen is that from my personal experience, just being able to sing and hum a tune and what have you through some of the anxiety and depression that I faced for myself, it's allowed me to kind of climb out of that dark space to a brighter light. So I tell people it may not happen the minute you turn it on, but when you open your mind up and you truly have, it comes down to mindfulness and wanting something better than where you are. And when you have that and you concentrate and you focus on it and you meditate on it, you're going to start seeing yourself come out of that anxiety and that depression over a period of time. But no one can say it'll take 5 minutes or 10 minutes. It's a process that you do, and it's not a one and done thing with the music. Music becomes a part of your life, it becomes a part of your therapy, it becomes a part of your routine. You don't let it go. When you find something that's working, it doesn't mean that setbacks or depression or anxiety won't creep back into your life. But the minute it does, you already have music as part of your daily routine. So it's easier to ward it off and to combat it.
Well, let me ask you this, and this may be a question that you can answer, and it may be a question that you can't answer. Do you ever have songs that that if they ever came on the radio, or if you were, let's say, listening to Spotify or something on your phone, and the song comes up, but it's a song that's linked to, let's say, a bad memory? Do you just skip it or do you listen to it?
So if it's linked to a bad memory for me, I'm probably going to skip it because if you're already having anxiety or depression or you're dealing with trauma, why would you want to relive, those traumatizing moments? You want to move past that because there are millions and millions of songs to choose from. Skip through it. If it's on Spotify or whatever music you're listening to, fast forward, skip it Move
I,
towards something, because the goal is to heal, not to stay in that position. We want to cross over that, because there's a fine line between that happiness when you're trying to escape being depressed, in that depressive state. There's a fine line. So the goal is to cross over that line, not to kind of linger into it, kind of cross over it, move past it. And once you move past it, if you hear that song, then you're able to cope with it and deal with it if you kind of have flashback to some traumatizing moments, if that makes sense.
yeah, I always kind of mention to people, be careful with the songs that you choose for a loved one's funeral, because once you choose it and you play it, you're going to remember that song and that moment. So if
For
you don't
sure.
want that song to be bringing up, let's say, a sad time, then don't use that song. And
I would
and you're right. We have the choice, and we have to choose wisely. And the Bible says, the joy of the Lord is our strength. And,
Yes.
David and even Solomon wrote, well, Psalms, and there's a lot of joyful songs there in Psalms. And for those of you that may not be close to music, at least open up the Bible and just start reading some of the Psalms. And there's a lot of great Psalms there that will help
Yes.
lift your spirits. And you're right. There are songs that I'll hear and I'm like, nope, we'll just pass that. We'll just skip that one very quickly. And but there's a lot of songs out there that can bring a lot of joy to a lot of people. And maybe sometimes we need to be singing a silly song just to kind of make us laugh.
That is so true. That is so true. And there are a ton of champion empowering songs that you can listen to that'll make a difference. For me, I listen to, it's one of my songs, but it's called Stronger Than That. And it's just a reminder. I talk about God having a sense of humor. It's to know that you're stronger than whatever situation that you're dealing with or that you've been through. You can overcome, but take the time, move through it. There are brighter days. You'll see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Ah, there you go. And ladies and gentlemen, you just received some great advice from Brei Carter. Now, Brei, now tell us about your career pursuits in both country music in Nashville, as well as being a successful entrepreneur in the medical industry. What's that all about?
You know what? I tell people it's music, it's medicine, it's my meditation. I mean, it's my mantra. It's who I am in my ministry. So that's first and foremost. I tell people I'm a God lover. I'm filled with faith. That's first and foremost. So that kind of gets me through things. But music, it's always been a part of me, and obviously the medicine. Hence, we're talking about anxiety and depression for many years. I worked in that arena dealing with the different mental disorders, bipolar, anxiety disorder, depression, and what have you. So just having that experience and working with psychiatrists and what have you, and just my prior education is just kind of, it's a passion for me. And I just want to make sure through my music and the messages that I put out, it empowers other people to give and inspire other people to have a little bit of hope. So that's what it's about. Music joining souls together to make a difference in this world that we live in. And sometimes medicine plays a part of it. So sometimes it's music as the medicine, and sometimes it may be pharmaceuticals. Everything's different, or natural herbs. They're different things, and everyone needs something a little bit different. But I guarantee you, with the medicinal things that you could use, such as medicine, or with holistic things, adding music to it, it's a combination for a healthy, good mind and heart.
Yeah, I always encourage people, don't, if you're by yourself, don't be sitting in silence. But at the
For
same
sure.
time, make sure that you're feeding your body, mind, and soul positive things. And sometimes it's good to turn the TV off, but put some music on that you enjoy, things that lift your spirits up, because it makes a huge difference. But tell us about this incredible brand new distribution deal that you have signed.
Oh my goodness. Brownlee Entertainment, amazing. Dwayne Brown, Nancy, Pepper, Benji, all of them, they're just so amazing. I say it's a godsend, it's a blessing. Just I look for those God connections, being where I'm supposed to be with the right people. Because then, although sometimes it may take you a little bit longer to get there, you're surrounded with the people that you're supposed to be with. But it's been a great ride so far. It's still new with them, and we're just trying to put great music out there and touch lives.
Well, so now I also understand that you have a couple of new songs coming out. So what can the fans expect and where can they get your new music?
Well, once again, I am on Sony Orchard's distribution, so you can download music through them or on all Spotify, iTunes, YouTube. You can catch me on all the platforms that are out there that are available. So that's one thing, or BreiCarter.com. Check me out on my website. You also can, read about Music is Medicine, the blog and what have you. For the month of May, every day there's a new article that I've written that goes up. And then after May going forward, just because this isn't a one and done thing, I want this to be constant. Every week I'll post a new blog about Music is Medicine and new songs that are coming out. I just released For the Good Times, which is a cover, Chris Christopherson. Ray Price made it a hit. So For the Good Times, I took it back to the traditional old way of country with that song when I released it. And then I have an original coming out, Straight Up Country Crazy. So in other words, it's just being your true authentic self. That's coming out, and I got lots more waiting for you to share with you.
Hey, I can't wait. And I'm thinking too that you may have to write a song and title it Music is Medicine. And I think that would be I think that would be a great song to have on your next album. And ladies and gentlemen, Brei Carter, her songs are absolutely fantastic. She has been highly recognized in Nashville for her talent and for her songs. And again, go on Spotify, go on iTunes, right there on the bottom of your screen, BreiCarter.com. If you want to read her brand new blog, just go to BreiCarter.com/musicismedicine and just tap into everything that she's doing. And here's what I love about Brei, ladies and gentlemen, is not only does she not only is she an incredible music talent, but she's giving back to all of her fans through this incredible, powerful, potent blog, Music is Medicine. And I, for one, am a big fan, and I, for one, believe that music is actually medicine. So right now, ladies and gentlemen, you need to tap into Brei Carter, listen to her incredible songs and her music. You're going to become a fan. I will guarantee you that. So, Brei, you got brand new fans coming your way.
I accept them all. Thank you so much. God bless you. Love you. Love you all. Thank you for tuning in today. This has been amazing. Thank you.
Hey, and Brei, again, I want to thank you for coming back onto the program, and I can't wait for you to come back again.
My pleasure. And remember, music is medicine.
Music is medicine, and I will agree in that vein right then and there. And ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned because I'll be right back with more.